Welcome. My name's Bill Rosehart, and I have the pleasure of being the Dean of the University of Calgary Schulich School of Engineering. I'm so pleased that you're able to join us for our fourth Schulich Connects of this academic year, Improving Lives Through Biomedical Engineering. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region here in Southern Alberta. The city of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. Biomedical engineering has spurred numerous critical developments across the medical field and remains the driving force of research for future advances in healthcare. Biomedical engineering breakthroughs have collectively improved our lives and continue to have a major impact in our communities. If you have any questions or comments at any times in the panel today, please type them into the Q&A function at the bottom of the webinar, and our moderator will ask those questions to the panel throughout the event. So don't wait till the end to ask your questions. If you think of something during the session, please type it in right away. We are recording the session, and we will be making it available to view in the coming days. After much discussions and numerous rounds of approval, it is my pleasure to officially announce the launch of our sixth department in the Schulich School of Engineering, the Department of Biomedical Engineering. BME is an exciting interdisciplinary discipline, focusing on the ultimate goal of improving the quality of lives. It is so exciting to be finally announcing our sixth department. I'd now like to take a moment to introduce you to today's moderator, Dr. Mike Callis, who is the interim head for our new Department of Biomedical Engineering. Dr. Callis also holds an adjunct appointment in the Department of Cell Biology and Anatomy in the Cummings School of Medicine. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Callis.
Thank you so much, Bill, for that introduction. And it's really a pleasure to be moderator for this Schulich Connects and talk a little bit more about biomedical engineering. And so I'm just going to share a screen. I've got a couple slides to kind of talk a little bit about the topic. And hopefully everybody can see that. So my first thing is, what is biomedical engineering? Well, really, this is engineering design and problem solving, so using the same tools of math and physics and chemistry, but adding knowledge about medical and biological sciences to tackle and solve medical problems. And that's really biomedical engineering. And this can be applied through prevention of disease and injury, diagnosis, monitoring, and therapeutics. And there's a number of broad kind of subtopics underneath that that are all fall under the heading of biomedical engineering. And at the University of Calgary, we really have something unique in this department in that it is a transdisciplinary cross-faculty organization of faculty members and students. And so we have a graduate program, which has students across campus and supervisors across campus, as well as undergraduate programs, a minor, which we've offered for almost 20 years, and a new major, which we just started last fall, of biomedical engineering bachelor's degree, as well as this research that crosses multiple different faculties. And so you can see here on the left, not only do I report to Bill as the Dean of Engineering, but in the research and graduate world, I report to these other deans of medicine, kinesiology, vet med science, and nursing. And so it's really an exciting collaboration, and this department will really be a hub of these activities across campus. And so we have formed a really dynamic team as the core start to the department. These are the faculty members that are officially associated right now. The stars indicate those that are brand new in the last year or two to our campus. And so we have a really young, dynamic team to join our existing excellent team. Super excited about what we're going to be able to do in the next few years. And the one note is that this is plus 90 other faculty members across those multiple faculties. And really that network of researchers, plus all of our collaborators in medicine and in the vet world and even in business and nursing and arts, form this team that will be coordinated through the Department of Biomedical Engineering and be able to interact with the health system and industry and national and international partners. So this really is an exciting time for us. And the areas where we're going to focus our efforts and where we have critical mass of strength and expertise include human mobility, things like biomechanics, concussion studies, osteoarthritis, things like that. Advanced biomedical imaging is another core strength area. Regenerative medicine, stem cells and bioprocessing and areas like that. Precision biodiagnostics, so detecting cancer. So Tina Rinker's company, she's one of our panelists here, it would fall under that category. Health monitoring and management includes wearables, artificial intelligence, and machine learning with health data, and then novel medical technologies. There's a number of other cool things that are kind of nucleating as we grow. And so that's a really quick overview of biomedical engineering. And I'm going to talk now about our panelists. And really, it's a great pleasure to introduce the panel that we have here today. So first, we have Tina Rinker, who's a professor in the Department of Biomedical Engineering, and it's so cool to be able to say that now. She also has an appointment in the Department of Physiology and Pharmacology in the Cummings School of Medicine, and is a lab scientist with Creative Destruction Lab Rockies. She's also the co-founder, in her spare time, I guess, and chief scientific officer of Scientra, which is a precision medicine company. So welcome, Tina. Next, we have Carolyn Anglin, who has over 25 years of experience in the orthopedic field. Her areas of expertise are in surgical training models, medical devices, biomechanics, and computer-assisted surgery. She is also the president of Tactile Orthopedics, which is actually a spin-out company which came from her lab here at the U of C. So welcome, Carolyn, as well. And finally, we have Dr. Brianna Boris, who obtained both her bachelor's degree in chemical engineering and her PhD in biomedical engineering from the University of Calgary. She works as a bioprocess scientist at PBS Biotech in California, where she focuses on bioreactors and stem cell expansion, which assists customers in bringing life-changing cell and gene therapies to the clinical world and then to patients. So welcome, Brianna. So this is, I'm very excited for the panel here, by the way. I don't know if you can tell. So we're going to get the panel warmed up with kind of a starting question so you can get to know them a little bit better. And so I'm just going to ask you for maybe 1 or 2 minutes to just talk about your respective research area in biomedical engineering. And maybe I'll start with Tina.
Mike, thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for that wonderful introduction. So I've been at the University of Calgary since 2005, and in that time worked on precision medicine type of projects around biomedical engineering translation, technology development and translation. So now we've spun out a technology out of the university in the area of cancer diagnostics. This is a blood test for breast cancer detection, which is labeled an in vitro diagnostic. This is a laboratory-based test that can be used for screening for breast cancer.
Awesome and super exciting. Carolyn. Oh, you're muted, Carolyn. Wouldn't be a Zoom session without one of those. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm on very much on the bone and joint side. And I was thinking back through the history, my 4th year course, I took orthopedic biomechanics. I'm still in orthopedic biomechanics. So, but we're with Tactile Orthopedics. We create realistic knee models for surgical training. And so the particular 2 that we're focused on are knee replacement surgery, and which unfortunately people are on all these wait lists now, but they're really hoping to get those knee replacement surgeries, and then sports medicine. So all the people out there skiing get an ACL replacement, someone's doing your ACL reconstruction, and they've got a chance to practice on our models. So my background is academia, industry, and entrepreneurship. Yeah, so I was a professor at the University of Calgary, and then launched this out, and it's been a very intriguing road along the way on the entrepreneurship side.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And Brianna.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. Like Mike mentioned, my degrees are in chemical engineering with the specialization in biomedical engineering, and then graduate program degrees in biomedical engineering. So I guess I'm a product of the system, a product of the program. I now work as a bioprocess engineer, so my day-to-day involves designing the processes that we use to generate clinically relevant cell quantities of high quality so that we can put them and use them in cell and gene therapies. I work with ultimately the coolest stem cell in the world, one that comes from an adult cell line. We can turn it into any single cell in the body, and then we can give it back to you. This gives us kind of the potential to even take away the word treatment and give us real cures using cells from your own body.
Very, very cool. And I will mention that Brianna was a student in my lab, so I can say very cool because I really know the area. Well, that's this. I think we have a great panel to answer a few questions. So I'm going to start with just talking about the department and maybe how will the creation of the department impact students. And maybe Brianna, as a former student twice here, do you want to answer what creation of this department could mean for students?
Yeah, well, it gives students an entryway in the field, something to get passionate and excited about. And what I hope you'll find is it's going to draw a lot of those brilliant minds that might not have thought engineering was the place for them into the engineering field, because we all know there might be stereotypes around engineers in Calgary and what they do. As a chemical engineer who designs processes, the natural path would be into oil and gas. This gives students the whole other perspective and a whole other passion to get behind. Obviously, I love biomedical engineering, so that would have been the path that I chose. And I'm sure you'll find many students choose, and you're going to give them the foundation to be biomedical engineers in any of the biomedical engineering fields that they like.
That's great. And Tina or Carolyn, do you have anything you want to add about the kind of the student aspect of the department?
Well, I think the two parts are highly multidisciplinary. And everything I've done, I mean, whether it's on the research side or now working with engineers and surgeons and artists and business people, it's really such a strong theme in biomedical is the ability to work with different groups and to see the value of the different groups. And then, as much as it's cliche, biomedical engineers, it's such an easy way to go and help people. And I think most people want to help people. And I think that is a big draw.
I think you saw 3 nodding heads when you said that. So that's very true. Tina?
Yeah, I just want to add something real quick. And, as one of the first faculty members at University of Calgary for development of the initial minor or specialization in biomedical engineering, we saw over the years really some students that were really passionate and wanted more. And it's such an integrated field. It's really great to be able to offer students an opportunity to really dive in and get more depth in terms of biomedical engineering, as well as that breadth that is needed in being a biomedical engineer. So at the undergraduate level, getting enough specialization along with the connections and the breadth to understand where they want to go in that field of biomedical engineering. It's really exciting. I think students will really love it.
I hope you're right. I think you will. I think you are. And so students come through our program, and then they're going to be looking for opportunities out in the real world. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about what about opportunities there are in the biomedical engineering field, both in terms of opportunities for students, but also kind of research and technologies. Did anyone want to take that one first? Carolyn, how about you?
Sure. Again, I used to teach the medical devices course and some of the intro biomedical engineering. And there's multiple, even within Canada, we tend to have a lot of smaller companies. And so it's harder to access those than to just go into one large company and say, oh, I'll just apply this, and they have an existing system. So the students have to work harder to find it, but there are many, many small companies happening around Canada. There's a lot of innovation happening. There's also grants that support students getting into new careers or co-op programs into the biomedical field. So it takes a little bit of work, But if you go for the work, there's some really exciting opportunities out there.
Yep, and all I would add to that is the international aspect. So biomedical engineering is an international program. So we've had lots of students that are over in Europe or to the US or other parts of the world. So it's really a degree that can take you places.
And I guess I'll naturally feed off of Dr. Rinker there. Is what it comes down to is at the University of Calgary, you're going to have so much hands-on experience in these research labs. So like Mike said, I was his student, and I also worked with Dr. Anglin at her original startup company from my second year of undergrad, throughout all my thesis, and then all through grad school. I was constantly doing research in these labs. That how many of engineering labs work is it's pre-industry labs, right? These are translatable things, real applications. So you gain all that experience that you need. And then even if like we know there's many cool companies in Alberta, in Canada, if you're maybe in a field like mine where there's other things that are going to impact job ability that are well out of our control. Everything from just maybe how the healthcare system works, how politics works, sheer population numbers, things that we might not want to change. It might be easier to manufacture therapies in the US because we have a larger market base. There's more people in California than there is in all of Canada. That's not something that we want to change, but it's something that's out there where it might create these hubs in other areas of the world. But what it does give us is really kind of the best students to go to these companies. I mean, at my small company in a California biotech hub, 3 members of my lab went through the University of Calgary program. So they want us, everyone will take us because we have that foundation. So if the company isn't in Alberta there, we have the opportunities, like Dr. Rinker said, internationally.
And I would just want to add that we do have an internship program now at the graduate level in biomedical engineering that supports and gets students ready for work in industry. And it's part of a national program across Canada. And Schulich School also has a really strong internship program and support for students to take those international or national opportunities, even while they're doing their degree, which Brianna also did as an internship as well. I'm getting a couple questions in the chat that I'm just going to answer super quick about getting involved with the program, specifically at the graduate level. So if you're interested in grad studies, that's awesome. And I am loving hearing that. Brianna knows I'm always recruiting. Just email bmegrad@ucalgary.ca and you can get some more information. If you check out the website, you can find a list of supervisors and you can find a list of those 100 supervisors across the different faculties there. So I think we talked a bit about, opportunities for students and the international type connections. What do you think are going to be the next kind of big focus areas for BME over the next 3 to 5 years? So students that are kind of entering the program now, what do you think they'll see? I know nobody has a crystal ball, but give us your best guess. Tina, maybe do you want to start with that one?
Sure. So there's lots of different areas of BME. So in the areas that I'm most familiar with, really we're looking at things such as precision health, precision medicine, where we're more closely integrating detecting specific subtypes of disease. So cancer or even breast cancer is not one disease, it's multiple diseases. So being able to detect and treat at more of the smaller group areas is really a trend that is really where we need to get to in that area, as well as manufacturing. So how to deliver these therapies to large populations cost effectively and bring down the cost of healthcare if possible. So it's really there's a systems approach in there, as well as the individual technologies in those sectors.
That sounds very exciting. And Carolyn, I see you unmuted.
Sure. I've had some really interesting conversations over the last week and piecing this together in my head. But really what I'm realizing is integration is what biomedical engineering is all about, but also it's what the world is all about, in that we're having both the capability and the interest to pull a lot of different factors together. So artificial intelligence is helping us, machine learning, but also conceptually considering many different factors about a person, what's happening, why is it happening, and I will have other opportunities to talk about this, but pulling many data sets together, or many, and people are crowdsourcing the information, but that idea that it's not one thing that's going on, but it's multiple things is a big factor that's going ahead.
Sure. And what we have to think about is, you're asking what does the future hold in biomedical engineering, and I now see the panelists and I'm thinking, okay, you have cancer diagnostics, we have orthopedic training, we have regenerative medicine. There's much more out there, don't get me wrong, but those three things are absolutely in that future hold point. We're fighting cancer, we're not getting rid of knee replacements and the need for surgical training. And in my field, in regenerative medicine specifically, the things we're looking at right now, I think, is breakthroughs in treating autoimmune diseases, and then treating and curing autoimmune diseases. So from this perspective, the last 10 plus years in stem cell therapies and gene manufacturing has been using an adult stem cell to kind of treat maybe joints and pains, and there was a lot of misunderstanding behind it. Now that we're working with a pluripotent stem cell that can go into anything, we're able to actually target diseases like diabetes, cancers, lupus, MS, and we're in clinical trials for those right now, looking for, like I said, actual cures, things that are not going to require forever treatments, forever prescriptions, forever inputs. So that's the big exciting part of my field right now.
And that's fantastic. I'm getting more excited as I talk to this panel. This is great. So you mentioned kind of the next big breakthrough. So in orthopedics, Carolyn, what do you think is the next really big thing coming down the road?
So that's where I think about this integrative aspect, that even last week we were talking with a knee surgeon, and he was saying there's not one big thing that's going wrong. When something goes wrong, it's not one big thing. It's this accumulation of smaller errors. And the more that we can detect those little smaller errors, the more we're going to be able to identify for that individual what's going wrong, or for that surgeon what's going wrong. So pulling all that together is a big thing. Robotic surgery is certainly happening, and we're working together with some robotic surgery people, and that is going to help feed us some of the data that we're looking for as well. Remote learning, remote training, remote surgery is. We've got all of this virtual and remote stuff happening because of COVID, but it's really pushed things over the edge. So in our case, in terms of the surgical training, we're now able to train people remotely that wasn't able to be possible before, where one person has a knee model in one case and someone else has a knee model in another location, and that's able to happen. But just generally virtual medicine, people are more willing to talk with their doctor by phone or by Zoom, and triaging what happens. But particularly that integrative larger data set. Steve Boyd from the McCaig Institute of Bone and Joint Health was talking about, NASA's picked 17 different projects, McCaig being one of them, and each astronaut is going to have all of those 17 different types of research done on them, and then they're going to integrate all that information together. So that's where I see the future, is not one little exciting project, but it's the integration of many, many different pieces of information coming together.
That sounds a lot like engineering. And Tina, you're in the cancer area, and I know there's a new big cancer center going in. Maybe you could kind of link how the cancer center and what we're doing in biomedical engineering can really benefit Calgary and Alberta.
And I want to build on something that Carolyn said as well, which is this integration. And as we look at data, we look at artificial intelligence and software tools, and we look at technologies, devices, ways to measure things, the coming together. So the opportunity in the Cancer Center really is to get a more full picture of what's going on in the individual from their health status to the particular disease that is coming up or rearing its ugly head, to be able to better treat those individuals, as well as to learn about how can we prevent the development of these diseases in the first place. So I think in terms of the Cancer Center, there's a really great opportunity to link what is going on from initiation to completion, being able to develop technologies along that path. So biomedical engineers are critical in this path, because they can help with the development of technologies, the integration between technologies, to make sure that that knowledge is not only gained, but also implemented into the care settings.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example of how the engineers will be leaders and linkers in the field, and not just kind of a member of the team. I think there's a real opportunity there. And I think we've built that into our program with a lot of team-based activities and design projects and connecting with others across campus. So I've seen a couple questions about how do we build a hub in Calgary around biomedical engineering, around health technologies. And I see Carolyn is unmuted. Do you have a?
I was going to respond to the last comment.
Okay, you can do a little response there, but then
I'll
I want to hear about
a double answer.
Yeah,
we're talking a lot about data. We're talking a lot about the health records, but the only way you get data is to have devices to record the data. And I mean, some of it is personal, but that's again where a lot of the engineers come in. And it's been obvious to me over my career the difference between something like a biomedical engineer that's familiar with the medical technology and the medical mindset is going to build a better device, a more suitable device for that medical technology, because they're aware of the limitations, they're aware of the medical side. So I do believe that there's a strong value in having that biomedical perspective and working with the familiarity with working with the medical field as you design the technologies. I'm actually going to toss the hub idea back to Tina with her biohub.
Well done, Carolyn.
So yes, we are, a hub is building here in Calgary, Alberta, across Alberta and Western Canada. And this is in this area of life science, biomanufacturing, life science technology development. We have lots of companies here. Carolyn mentioned this earlier, maybe less than 10 employee companies, smaller companies across Alberta. We need to help them get to the next level, grow to the next level, as well as there are companies that are locating here from outside of Alberta, and we want to encourage that to continue to occur. So Alberta is a great place for manufacturing, actually, for companies in the US or other places around the world. The manufacturing, the high percent of engineers, the workforce that's available here, the cost of space, the location. So, this is in progress. Really in the past couple of years, there's been great progress in terms of building up the life science industry. As Carolyn mentioned, I'm co-founder of a not-for-profit organization called the Calgary Biohub and the Biohub X. Biohub X is a organization to help with this as well, but there have been a lot of organizations across Alberta and in Calgary that have formed to help these smaller companies grow and become larger or international companies, as well as recruit in outside companies. And a key part is the workforce training, which, biomedical engineering and the breadth of training in that is really a key piece of building the hub, building the resources available here in Alberta.
And I was gonna link to that, Bettina, you did it well. That one of the key reasons a company will locate somewhere is the availability of talent. And I think with our program and really trying to link closely to companies that Tina's interacting with and other companies in industry in Alberta and nationally, is to provide that talent that is really ready to hit the ground running when they get into the company, so that companies will start to locate here because they're close to where that talent is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mike, I think the hub is already there. The people are already there. From a perspective that was why, let's say, I have to leave California. It's a real perspective in something that I don't understand as politics. But for my field in particular, there's many levels above me that says somewhere you need to pull some money from Toronto. Frankly, when we see any money come into stem cells and regenerative medicine, it's a hard stop in Eastern Canada. And that's something that we've experienced. Every regenerative medicine researcher experiences in Alberta. If you have one person doing the same thing and maybe even have more expertise in the area here versus in Eastern Canada, there's been an unfortunate history of all that funding going to Eastern Canada. We see it even with all the COVID funding. Of course, Alberta, we're pushing to make that hub, but that is a hurdle that is being worked through in Canada to push to get Alberta more funding and more of a share of any national funding that comes towards biomedical engineering.
I think that the program and the department is really going to help with that, because I think it's kind of just a well-kept secret, the level of activity in Alberta in this area. So, I mean, the graduate program has been here for 25 years. The undergrad minor for almost 20 years. We've been training talent here, but they have had to go. And I think that having them stay here will really kind of accelerate that hub, that messaging out to companies. And it's kind of at this trajectory. That's my opinion. I don't know. I saw Tina and Carolyn both unmute, so maybe I'll let Carolyn go because she's our furthest external guest. Go first.
I'm gonna jump on two sides. One on the hub. We are at so Tactile Orthopedics is at the Life Sciences Innovation Hub, which is close to campus, and that's worked very well for us to be close to the foothills, and there's been other support mechanisms in there. So there's a group of companies there as well. And then Innovate Calgary has a life science fellowship program, and so they're trying to build out new companies by pulling people from the university and giving them the entrepreneurship skills. So there's a lot of really good work being done by the university to support new companies, which is really good. And then to Brianna's point, basically all of our central investors, we've got some family and friends from elsewhere, are Calgary investors in our company. And it's really clear that they want to build a Calgary-based company. Like, they are investing in it partly for the financial side, but you can tell that their hearts are in it, in that they want to create a Calgary company. And so to Brianna's point, someone from another place is less likely to invest. And so it's the Calgary investors, because you've got the heart attached to the location, that they need to start realizing that there's some exciting life sciences companies to be thinking about.
And I think even the Life Sciences Innovation Hub is doing some education around investing in this area, because it is different than what kind of people here have normally invested in terms of the energy industry. And it's just maybe a matter of education about the area, about it's just different risks and different opportunities. But I think that has started to change. And maybe Tina's seen that because she's been able to raise a bunch of money for her company just recently, which was super exciting.
Yes, so there's, I think that just like Mike said, there's Alberta Bio has been sort of a secret. There's not been as much advertising about what is already existing here. So there's been some very exciting companies that have been developed here. Some companies have left due to the, quite a few companies leave to the US due to issues with space or needing additional ecosystem resources. So the province and The companies in Alberta have been working hard to help provide a better support system and environment conducive to that. And there's really been great movement in the past couple of years. Creative Destruction Labs Rockies has been really huge in terms of generating support, knowledge, education around investing in companies in this location, and really percolated throughout the university as well. So what's really important is the innovation mindset, the entrepreneurial thinking mindset, and that's really grown here at University of Calgary in the past couple of years. And then in terms of investments, we see kind of a slow increase, and this past year a really great increase in terms of capital provided by investors into Calgary companies. There's still this link to the US and other jurisdictions, which is really important. So those networks to connect not only to local investors across Canada, investors, but also beyond, to really help engage in those international networks to take the companies to that international level. So yes, there's been a reason for companies to leave previously, and this is building here. But it's really exciting time to see this growing here in Alberta.
An exciting time to stay, and an exciting time to actually spin things out from the university. So we've got panelists here in certain areas, but there are many, many more that are working on really exciting things in many different areas. And there is now, startup seed funding from the Life Sciences Innovation Hub to start those companies. There are fellowships to get a postdoc or someone to actually have some time to actually spend on taking a lab discovery into a company. And so I would agree with Tina that there has been things in the past, but it's not that way anymore, and it's very exciting now, and a great opportunity to do that. And coming back to, I can't remember who mentioned kind of the international piece, but a question has been asked about the US market and private healthcare being so much bigger than, say, maybe Canadian or public healthcare, and how can we take advantage of that and not see that as a negative, but as a positive?
Yeah, there's already a lot of cross-border business going on. I'm sorry, Brianna. So, Alberta, there's a lot of companies that are in Alberta that are doing, accessing the US market, the European markets, the Asian markets. So it's a really important. Markets is one thing where you headquarter your business, or you have your manufacturing situated, is independent of where the world markets are right now. So you can access those world markets from right here in Calgary.
Brianna.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what the US and other private healthcare countries do, I'm not sure if there's more really than the US, but it gives us access to work with those companies who may be able to get things into market faster. Where it's actually a positive from a science view is the private healthcare system may seem like it's getting things to market faster or having more things on the market. But for someone like me who lives in now California, I see it as, hey, I don't like this because this is just promoting things like stem cell tourism in our field, where that gives doctors freedom to do bad science and implement bad regenerative medicine into the system. Canada's public healthcare system actually will, in many ways, prevent that. It'll put a stronghold where we actually need to have the solid science and the solid treatments before it's introduced into our healthcare system. So we can basically play off countries like the US that are quote unquote testing things in a less scientific manner, and bring that knowledge back into us to Canada, where we're going to go through our extreme rigorous process in order to actually introduce our cell and gene therapies into what becomes the market, which is our public healthcare system.
Yeah, I'd like to add one thing, and that is Alberta has a one-entry healthcare system. We have one of the largest healthcare systems in North America here in Alberta. And this is really important to be able to access patients, do clinical studies, clinical trials to validate the technologies. When you're in the US, people have lots of different healthcare. They go to one hospital, it's one healthcare system. They go across the street to the other hospital, it's another healthcare system. So you don't have this link between their continuity of care and that you have in Alberta. So Alberta is really attractive to companies in that regard.
I was going to ask, I think Tina mentioned manufacturing and biomanufacturing. And so since Tina, you're talking about that area, maybe you could just talk a little bit about, I think this is another incredible opportunity for Calgary and Alberta in that field. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so biomanufacturing is really what we're talking about here are the high value types of products. So this is in molecular diagnostics, cell therapies. When we look to the future in therapeutics and diagnostics, there's a large molecular component. So what that means, there's a lot of signals in your blood or saliva, other liquid samples, it's called liquid biopsy. So being able to understand those and then develop tests to be able to clearly identify what you want. Is it a screening test? Is it a diagnosis test? Is it a test to determine which medicine to take? As well as in terms of cell-based therapies, looking at how your immune system is responding and what the status of that is, and being able to tune the therapy to that disease. So those are areas where biomanufacturing can provide an advantage. We've seen the vaccines in terms of COVID, and being able to respond quickly to those situations, as well as build the technology for the future. So in biomanufacturing, high value types of manufacturing, we really have an opportunity here to expand this sector.
Brianna?
Yeah, well, obviously this is so exciting to me because I came in by chance to the field at a very, very lucky time. I'm not meaning to age Mike at all here, but to say when he started growing stem cells in the bioreactors, he was pioneering the field. Sorry, Mike, but that's a good thing. And he was on the side where he has to go out and convince the biologists, you guys are going to need this. Hey, if you think this is a cool cell, you're going to need this down the future. You're going to need this down the future. We're doing our little experiments. I managed to pull through the system and come out at the exact time when all the biologists are finishing up with their cell discoveries. And they're saying, oh my gosh, we need a process engineer to get this anywhere. So everyone wants us process engineers, our biomanufacturing capabilities right now in my field. And that's very lucky and very exciting for me because yeah, I went through the field learning these techniques, something we always say. So chemical engineers in Calgary, we're often called process engineers because that's what we do. We design processes. And my tagline at the biolab that I work with is the process is the product. And we work to give you good processes, not just a process to meet your final target. So in the field of biomanufacturing, yeah, you're producing a high quality chemical engineer that also understands biology. Hey, you're perfect. Viruses, vaccines, when this started coming out, I say, hey, I've grown viruses in bioreactors before. I know how to do that already. Not that many people have actually got that experience. Yeah, your engineers in the BME program know all of this and actually are the experts in biomanufacturing and process design.
And we have good links to others in the Cummings School of Medicine, for example, working on immunotherapies. So it's those links on the ground to multidisciplinary to the science, the biology, and the bench scale research, and then to be able to see the possibilities in the translation of that into what we'll need in the future. So thank you for aging me, but also giving me a compliment. So, but I think that's what we're trying to do with our program is really train engineers for the problems that are 10 years down the road, not just the ones that are now. And so I think Tina might have wanted to add something to that.
Yeah, just real quickly, the data piece, back to something that Carolyn mentioned. So Alberta is one of the top places in the world for artificial intelligence and machine learning. And all that is really important as we look to the future, building that strong base of data analysis, machine learning, artificial intelligence types of techniques to be able to optimize our processes and analyze the health data that's coming out.
Yeah, so I think you were very lucky, Brianna, in the timing, but there's a huge demand again. And we have companies here in Alberta like Northern RNA and Providence Therapeutics that are looking at making mRNA vaccines, looking at making mRNA technologies for a host of other things as well. Once the pandemic's over, they're still going to be around, and they're growing quite rapidly too. So I think you're right about the well-kept secret, but also about the growing opportunities here in the area. I'm looking at some of the questions from the chat, and they talk a bit about some of them have mentioned Alberta as a whole and not just Calgary. And so I wonder if you can talk about what it's like to be in Alberta and be having a biomedical engineering program in Alberta. I don't see volunteers, but maybe Carolyn.
I'm trying to figure out whether the question is trying to broaden it out from Calgary, or that is it an Edmonton question or a Calgary question?
Well, I think that Tina mentioned the single healthcare system for Alberta, and I think Brianna mentioned, California has more people than Canada, so I think that we're small, but I think that there are a lot of complementary strengths at U of A, and I think that us building up our biomedical engineering program can really complement some of those activities so that we can go after the world in a way.
Brianna said she's not into the politics, but I think there should be more attention to drawing people and saying how fantastic Calgary is.
Well, we can do that too.
I used to live in Paris, and my sister, but I prefer Calgary. And my sister delighted in telling people, oh, my sister prefers Calgary over Paris, because it's not in people's minds. I think everyone who's in Calgary loves Calgary. And people outside of Calgary have a completely different impression of Calgary. So I think there needs to be much more general promotion of what a fantastic place it is.
And I think actually that's happening. We've been working a bit with Calgary Economic Development, and life sciences is on their radar in terms of promoting Calgary as a place to do life sciences and do health technology development. So I think you're right on the money there. Tina or Brianna, I couldn't see who unmuted first.
I can't agree more. If anyone's on this call from my California friend base, they're rolling their eyes, because at every comment it's, well, Calgary has this better. Calgary's the best. Yeah, when it's a well-kept secret. No one knows about Calgary here, and all you have to do is show them a couple pictures and they go, isn't that Instagram like? I say, no, it's just all like that. It's the most beautiful, wonderful city to be a part of. So not only is maybe the biomedical field was a well-kept secret there, Calgary, Alberta in general is a well-kept secret to the world that I don't know, what's that saying? You need money to make money. It's when you start getting research grants, you get a bunch of research grants. When you start getting companies there, you're going to get a ton of companies there. You're going to, I hope, see the same hub that I see in my little pocket of California right now.
Yeah, so what attracted to me here back in 2005 is I really saw this potential. So Calgary was a very entrepreneurial city. People taking risks and being successful. The IP policy at the university here, very favorable for companies to spin off of that at the university. But the collaborative environment, a true collaboration between medicine, clinicians, engineers, scientists, physicists, business people, the true collaboration is actually a unique feature here. And it's really one of the key pieces for what's going to make this really grow. So what I've seen is we've now finally have that critical mass in the areas that are needed to really launch. And so I think you're really you can see the great things continue to come out and grow significantly, as Brianna said.
Just one more point to add what you were saying, Tina. I'm actually not familiar with how many universities are linked to, say, healthcare and hospitals and resources in that manner. And one thing I can say about Calgary is, yeah, how cool is that? I'm not sure if this is common, but I thought it was very exciting that we're next door to groundbreaking children's hospitals and adult hospitals, the Foothill Medical Center. So I was riding my bike over there every other day. I think all three of you have different labs at the hospital. So when we're talking about biomedical engineering, you have your engineering campus, your bike ride away to your Foothill campus, your hospital campus. So if that doesn't say translation, I don't know what does.
And also the veterinary medicine here. That's another unique thing, is a really strong vet school. And so we have a number of collaborators, not here per se, but in biomedical engineering that are working with folks in the vet field. And that links into the, Alberta's other big industry in kind of the agriculture, beef industry, horses. So there's a number of different applications in biomedical engineering there that we don't even have time for. So Bill, maybe another Schulich Connects could be about vet med and BME in a couple of years. And so the one thing that was mentioned is this entrepreneurial mindset and innovation. I think Tina touched on that, but Carolyn, as someone that's kind of also worked to take something from the university out, maybe you could speak to how that will really help accelerate things here.
I'm going to answer both questions again. I'll answer the last question and the future one. But in terms of the biomedical and versus other universities, other places, other universities that I'm aware of have biomedical, but still more in the silos. In electrical engineering, you take biomedical courses. I mean, there are biomedical undergrads, much more now so than 5 or 10 years ago. But I do like that breadth of collaboration that Tina talked about. I work really closely with Ryan Martin, who's a surgeon, and Rick Hugh. We started from the research side and started from that medical and engineering collaboration, and then it grew into research projects that were translational, and then Brianna was on there as we were on the spine, and then it's grown out from there, and then we pulled in the artists on the practical side. But so I do think that there's been that foundational collaboration for decades at Calgary that is different. And that links to the entrepreneurship. And again, even 10 years ago, it was pretty unusual. It was seen as a bad thing for a professor to be an entrepreneur. And now it's seen basically as a good thing. There's complications in there, but there's the Hunter Hub for entrepreneurship. There's as Tina said, there's the IP side of things that's generally favorable. There's just that desire to have the practical implication. That's what drew me, was biomedical is so practical and translational. It's that taking what you're doing in the lab and actually making a difference into people's lives. Tina's done it on her side, I've done it in mine, and others have done it on their side. So, but it's that practical implementation that the university is seeing and supporting quite nicely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's been a really, this collaborative nature across disciplines and breaking down those walls of silos. Everybody that comes and visits us, when we bring in a faculty member or an industry, remarks on that and says that that's something that really is unique here. And we want to work together. We're not competing with each other. And that's really good. So I'm getting notes that we're almost ready to close off. I think we have 1 more minute. So I'm just going to ask if anybody has just each of you had just a final comment that you would like to kind of bring as a final message. And I will start with Brianna.
No, just thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I've obviously been with the Schulich School of Engineering and these programs, and I've got to see Mike, and I've helped in little ways here and there be part of taking all these courses, TAing all these courses, changing some of these courses. And it gave me all the foundation I could have hoped for. And for me, I'm torn between the sadness of leaving one of the most beautiful cities in the world, but also being with the foundation to give me any job that I desire anywhere in the world. So I think biomedical engineering is obviously wonderful. And in my area and all these areas, we're on the breakthroughs of really, like Mike said, helping people. That's the fun part. We get to go into engineering and use our real life applications and our math and process brains to apply it in the health field, which is what I always hope to do. And I'm very thankful for that. So this BME program and future advances in Calgary will surely be exponential and exciting.
Thank you. Any Carolyn or Tina, 30-second final comment?
Well, I want to start with a huge thanks and appreciation for my team. You talk about it takes a community to raise a child, or a village to raise a child, and the same thing. It takes an entire community to raise a small company, and every single person plays a huge role. The outside community plays a huge role, and I love biomedical engineering. The multidisciplinary side, the having an impact. It's a wonderful field to be in.
Thank you. And Tina.
Yes, as well. Thank you for inviting me to be on the panel. These are exciting times. And as Carolyn said, what's really important is to get engaged. Everyone get engaged, support researchers of all kinds, trainees, professors, staff, towards these efforts, because it takes a lot to change the healthcare system, to really steer that big ship of the healthcare system, to get new technologies developed and implemented. Be bold. We need these bold ideas. We need these things that are going to disrupt the system and improve healthcare for all. So get engaged and help support the entrepreneurs, the innovators, become an innovator, and be part of the community.
Awesome. That is a perfect spot to end on. Thank you all very much. We couldn't get to every question in the Q&A, but hopefully you found most of the answers. And I'm going to hand it back to Dr. Rosart to end this.
Yeah, thank you, Mike, Caroline, Tina, and Brianna. It was a great panel discussion today. And before I wrap things up, Mike, one of the things we didn't talk about today is the Schulich School of Engineering, or the University of Calgary's BME response around COVID for the last 2 years. And I wonder if you could just take a minute and highlight some of the exciting things that happened at the University of Calgary in terms of supporting our community's response to COVID.
Yeah, it was a crazy time, but really the university has done an amazing job of supporting the community. We had researchers in Schulich who were working on 3D printing of swabs for testing when they were in limited supplies earlier on, working on getting reagents for the PCR testing. And also we built some teams working with local industry, Alberta Health Services, and researchers across campus to apply for funding opportunities became available to COVID, or through COVID. And so supported researchers developing, even a phone app to listen to the coughs and detect COVID that way, or new different technologies for diagnostics that are still in development and could result in new technologies and new companies. And so I think that there are many of those activities and collaborations that are still working across campus and still working with local industry that will continue beyond COVID.
That's great, Mike. And thank you to everyone who has joined us here today and attending the Schulich Connect. We hope you've enjoyed the discussion today and that you'll join us for our next Schulich Connect, which will be on February 24th, entitled Clean Tech, Engineering a Healthier Planet. Stay tuned for email and social media communications for more information on this next Schulich Connects. And until then, thank you again for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.